Another day and another instance of BBC's questionable journalism against Palestinians. It's infuriating, particularly because, unlike private TV channels, the BBC is funded by our hard earned license fee. In return, all we expect from the corporation, my former employer, is fair and objective journalism. Surely it's not an unreasonable expectation, is it? But a corporation with over 20,000 staff refuses to deliver basic journalism. In the latest episode, I came across an interview by Naga Manchetti, who was speaking to a BBC correspondent in Jerusalem. Naga began by asking, "What's happening? What has sparked this?" That's her words, not mine.
Dozens of Israeli settlers have set fire to houses and cars in a Palestinian village in the occupied West Bank, killing at least one person and seriously injuring others. Our Middle East correspondent Yolande Nell is in Jerusalem for us. Yolande, good morning to you. What's happening? What has sparked this, and what have we been seeing?
Well, there has been a spike in the numbers of settler attacks by extremist settlers on Palestinian civilians, particularly since the 7th of October attacks by Hamas, which triggered the war in Gaza. And then what happened in this case, it's a small village called Janta.
What she meant to say was, when Israelis indulge in terrorism, there is always a justification. Like murder of over 40,000 innocent and unarmed Palestinians in Gaza, including 20,000 children and babies, were justified because Hamas launched attack against their occupier Israel on the 7th of October. Israel is justified to flatten Gaza, destroy every single school and hospital building, and target newborn babies along with their doctor mother with precision-guided missiles provided by the nations like the US, the UK, the EU, Canada, and Australia, because this genocidal campaign was sparked by 7th of October attacks. So Naga asking a BBC correspondent for a possible trigger for Israeli terrorism in the occupied West Bank is not surprising. In military terminology, this is called providing cover fire so that the rogue regime of Israel can continue to carry out war crimes with impunity. Naga is one of the better journalists and has been with the BBC for a number of years. And as far as I have known her, she has never come across as someone who has a hidden agenda. I think when you work in an organization which has become so seeped into agenda-driven journalism, leaning towards Israeli Zionists, before you realize, you start asking questions such as this. I would have expected Naga to ask her correspondent to explain why Israelis have been illegally snatching Palestinian land. Why have they killed close to 1,000 innocent Palestinians in the occupied West Bank since 7th of October when there is no Hamas there? Why are Israelis allowed to carry automatic rifles but Palestinians cannot defend themselves? Why are the USA, the UK, the EU, Canada, and Australia promoting this apartheid regime? Why is the UN become so ineffective? Is there a crying need to disband the UN since it has lost its purpose? These are the questions I would have expected Naga to ask. Also, I would have expected Naga to ask her correspondent to explain which part of Jerusalem she was reporting from. But instead, her focus was seemingly to find out a justification for Israeli terrorism. Yesterday, when I said that I would trust Aljazeera for anything on the current Palestinian conflict, this is what I meant. See the reporting here. Aljazeera is calling it the occupied West Bank, and the reporter Noor Odeh is using the term murder to describe the killing of 23-year-old Mahmoud Abdel Qadir Sadda. BBC, Sky, and other prominent Western media outlets are so used to describing it as deaths. And if they're being generous, they would add the word killed in their headlines but not tell you who killed them.
It's not the only attack or the only village that was subjected to Israeli attacks. But let me tell you what happened here last night. Settlers came through this road. They attacked several homes, including this one, which belongs to Dr. Ibrahim As-Siddi. They broke into the house. They tried to start 2 fires in the house, and they burnt those 2 cars. There were several dozen Israeli settlers, all armed, according to the residents, and accompanied close by Israeli soldiers as usual. This is the trend of how Israeli settler attacks happen. When the residents tried to fend off the settlers who were setting homes on fire, pouring accelerants inside the homes, they were shot at. One person, Rashid As-Siddi, was killed, 23-year-old. His body will be laid to rest later today after undergoing autopsy to verify and complete the investigation into his murder.
I've always wondered, how do these reporters, their editors, and members of senior management manage to sleep well at night despite so much blood on their hands? Would their children still consider them heroes if they came to know how they earn their livelihood, essentially by passionately protecting a terrorist regime who have just killed more than 40,000 innocent people, including 20,000 children and babies? The media has been a willful partner in Israeli crimes against humanity. They could have played their role, at least the BBC could have, by challenging the dirty design and deliberate lies of Israel. Not once did the BBC scrutinize Israeli lies, even when the claims on putting 40 babies in an oven turned out to be fake news, or the claim on the rapes of Israeli women by Hamas on 7th of October. Even Israeli news outlets like Haaretz was showcasing better journalism than the BBC when the newspaper revealed how most people on 7th of October were killed by Israel as part of its Hannibal directive. The BBC had the opportunity to redeem itself by using this piece of information to expose Israel. But it didn't. The BBC had another opportunity to redeem itself when it failed to put Israel in the dock using the stunning comments made by UN representatives rejecting the rape claims.
The resolution condemned Hamas for the October 7th attacks, which we believe is long overdue. Blaming Hamas, condemning Hamas, especially in light of the UN's recent report confirming that Hamas engaged in conflict-related sexual violence.
So in short, to answer your question, no, we could not verify any sexual violence in Berry at this point, which does not mean necessarily it didn't occur. It means we couldn't verify it. And 2 of the cases that were reported were found to be unfounded.
And everywhere, throughout the report, you see that I mentioned that could not be verified, and verification would entail a proper investigation. Yes, we found it to be unfounded.
I've always believed that the easiest way to kill a democracy is by corrupting its media. I have seen it firsthand in India. The rapid degeneration of BBC journalism, coupled with the rise of propaganda outlets such as GB News and Talk TV, are signs that the country, formerly known as the Great Britain, has truly embarked on a downward journey to make itself irrelevant on global stage. Many of you have asked me why I do not question the silent complicity of the Arab rulers in these war crimes. I don't, because these Arab rulers are nothing more than the slaves of their Western masters. They are cowards whose survival rests on their support to Israel and its Western backers. These Arab rulers are disgrace to humanity, and they survive because spineless people living in those countries simply cannot stand up to their dictators. These Arab rulers had to do one thing to bring Israel to its knees: not provide land route to Israel to import goods from abroad when Houthis' blockade was beginning to have a crippling impact on the Israeli economy. But the slaves of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Egypt had other ideas. That's Arab rulers for you. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.